Hi. Thank you for attending today's reading. Let's begin. I accidentally posted this in a group chat. https://www.youtube.com/watch v = htat77cbejk. It's literally just Goku saying he's racist. After I posted this into the group chat, I apologized and said I was sorry. The next day my coaches call me. Are super pissed about it. Wanted to kick me off the team and told the athletic department. So they call me and say, we want to talk to you about that video, meet us at the gym. My coach looks super pissed off and said, why did you post that video? I said it was an accident. He lectured me about racist videos like these and said that this video could have caused a race war in our school. He told me that I offended the other teens on the team and that they might not ever forgive me. He told me to apologize to the other team members, and if I didn't I would be a coward. The next day I say I'm sorry cause I didn't want to get kicked off the team. Everyone laughed. No one was offended and they were worried I got in trouble. I can imagine it now. The athletic department watching a video of a Japanese anime character saying, "Now I am racist," and being terribly disgusted. This situation is so hilarious and embarrassing. End of story. Next story. Today someone told me something that stuck with me. I was talking about a fever dream I once had. I had a husband named James who was very sweet. This guy told me, see if you kill yourself James will never find you. He will look all around the world for you, and if you kill yourself he will be sad that he never found you. That honestly stuck with me. I hope I find my James IRL. End of story. Next story. My rough childhood teenage years. I'm Solara. I'm 20 years old and I have Williams syndrome. Today I'm going to take the time to tell you my life story. Starting from when I was a child, my teens, and who I am today. First, let's start from my childhood life. I was born on February 9, 2001. I was supposed to be born on March 9, but I was born a month early. I was only 3 pounds when I was born. I don't remember the inches. By the time I was almost 1, I had my very first heart surgery. I had a coronary angioplasty, is a medical procedure in which a balloon is used to open a blockage in a coronary heart artery narrowed by atherosclerosis. This procedure improves blood flow to the heart. I had this done twice. At 6 months old my intestines popped out. I went to the hospital and they fixed it for me. My knees started giving out at age 5 or 6. I can't remember. This happens a lot due to the low muscle tone in my knees. I'm hypersensitive, so some loud noises I can't handle. The list includes dogs barking, high-pitched laughter, loud nose blowing, the honking kind, and fireworks. Also the sound of throwing up I just can't handle. Now moving on. I was bitten by a dog when I was 8, so now dogs are a big no for me. I used to want to be deaf, so I wouldn't never have to hear barking again. Okay, seriously. Moving on. I have a mom, Holly, and a dad, Joe. I live with my mom and my cats J-Hope and Rory. J-Hope is named after a BTS member and Rory is a Gilmore Girls character. They are brother and sister. Now, about my parents. My mom is amazing, I love her. But not like I love my dad. I see my mom every day. I don't see dad much. But he's moving back to my state soon to be with me. When I was 11, almost 12, my mom met this guy named Eric. I thought at first he was a great guy. Him and my mom actually got married. But it was really hard. He abused me and my mom. We left him and I'm so glad we did. He was a dickhead. A douchebag. He told me I couldn't tell my dad I missed him. That was really hard. I once wrote my dad an email on how much I missed him, and Eric got so pissed at me that he told me I couldn't email him anymore. When I was 14, something really bad happened. My dad went to jail. My mom knew and she never told me. Until I called Grandma's and he picked up the phone. I was so excited. I shouted, "Mom, Dad's on the phone. He's at Grandma's." All she did was cry. And then I found out the truth. And it hurt me so bad. Imagine your dad going to jail and then think that he's dead and that you'll never see him again. That felt like a brick in my stomach. I was pissed, heartbroken, and I couldn't talk to my mom for at least a week. I couldn't even look at her. I have a better relationship with Dad. Because I hardly ever see him. Like once or twice per year. But he's making it up this year, so I'm glad I'll see him more often. High school was really rough. I was abused by my ex-stepdad and bullied at school. I didn't know who to turn to. In 2019 I graduated high school. Best day of my life. I'm really glad I graduated high school. I considered killing myself because I couldn't handle the pain anymore. So I self-harmed after graduating. I've cut myself 3 times. I mostly force myself to get sick. I've stopped forcing myself to get sick, although I still do it. Not often. So that's my teenage life. Now I'm a full-grown-ass 20-year-old woman. Who's proud to be alive today to tell my story, and hope you learned something when reading my story. Feel free to ask questions if you have any. End of story. Next story. I was being a childish prick to a girl I had a crush on in high school. Hello, stories. This is my first time posting here. And I can bet it won't be the last, cause I enjoy telling stories and up to now I've kinda enjoyed reading yours. I'm writing this in response to this story. Partly as a cautionary tale to the guy who wrote it. And partly as a way to show that I understand what was going on in his head. And be that as it may, it doesn't vindicate what he'd done. That being said, I'd like to point out that I know that I'm going to make myself out to be an asshole in this story. Hell, in retrospect I know I was. So I don't need sympathy. And I don't need to be crucified over how I acted either. It was a long time ago. I've matured. And I've had plenty of time to think about what I'd done XD, so just relax and enjoy the story. And possibly offer thoughts on the story itself and how it was written. Some of it was embellished due to memory gaps. But everything is true. Without further ado, it was my first year of high school. And there was this girl called Adrian that was sitting in front of me. This wasn't like the US school system. We didn't share 1 to 2 classes together. Rather, we spent every class together. 30-ish of us. Always is one room. Anyway, she had long, straight, silky brown hair, dark doe eyes, sleek body curved at just the right places. I'm getting carried away. You get the picture. I was instantly attracted to her. Probably safe to say I was head over heels. Trouble was, she wasn't attracted to me one bit. She was far from my first crush. But at that time I hadn't even had a proper girlfriend. Even though I did share a few kisses here and there over the years. The thing I really struggled with for a long time was that I was shy when it came to communicating with girls. Yet, there was something about her that I found irresistible. So I did everything I could to let her know I liked her. I flirted with her. I got to know her. I asked her out a few times. Got turned down OFC. Until she told me explicitly that she's not into me and that I should stop trying. The reason I was given was that I wasn't her type. She said she was into tall guys. Something within me just couldn't square with this. I was a good student. I was fairly good looking, not muscular or too tall, but I had an athletic build 'cause I was into sports at the time. And I had a sense of romance about me. I wanted to be the kind of boyfriend who every once in a while showed his affection with a small gift or a flower or something cheesy. Still, I remember thinking to myself, how could it be that my height, I was slightly taller than her, BTW, is the only obstacle? Quote, as if to hammer the final nail in the coffin of my ego. She hooked up with an older guy from our school who was into basketball. So he was taller than her by about 2 regular-sized heads. And I say regular-sized 'cause I openly teased her about the height disparity, saying, he's 2 of your heads taller than you. But you're 1.5 of his heads shorter than him. Implying that his head is the size of a watermelon. I teased her in multiple other ways too, most of which I've since managed to forget. But as if that wasn't enough, I resorted to even more childish behavior. I nabbed her notebooks and pencils so she couldn't take any notes in class. I tugged on her hair as I was sitting right behind her. Saw a friend unhook the bra of a girl sitting in front of him once for shits and giggles. So I tried that too. To her absolute horror, and teacher subsequently removing me from class. I was a downright childish ass. This went on for about 2 weeks. Maybe less. I started to regret what I was doing. But I was proud and stupid. And couldn't find the words, "I'm sorry," when I needed them most also. It was more and more agonizing. Standing in the hallway during recess. Watching her make out with her boyfriend. Not that it excused my behavior. I suppose things reached a boiling point. Because I looked their way one day. And I could feel they were talking about me. As if on cue. The guy left her embrace and started walking towards me. With her trying to pull him back to their original spot. Saying things like, "It doesn't matter. Just let it go." Quote. For some bizarre reason I smiled proudly. Maybe 'cause I guessed correctly that the conversation was about me. And the next thing I knew the guy was in my face. His hand gripping my shoulder tightly as he slammed my back into a wall. I don't remember much of what he said. There was a lot of yelling and cursing. I didn't talk back much though. Maybe because I felt guilty. He was bigger than me. For sure. But the moral part of me knew I was in the wrong and that I deserved it. The only thing I told him was to look around. And he slowly realized that he was making a scene and that people were gathering around us trying to see what was going on. He let me go with a warning. Something along the lines of, "This isn't over." Struggling with my wounded ego at that point. I didn't even acknowledge the fact that Adrian was trying to prevent him from beating me senseless. I thought it was her that told him about my acting like a cunt towards her. Instead of considering that other people tend to talk about things happening around them as well. I learned later that she didn't. And good thing too, because I probably would have interpreted that as a sign that she liked me after all. Which clearly wasn't the case. Our 2 classes shared a gym during PE. So we shared the locker room to get changed into our PE clothes. By that time word got around as to what had happened and everyone was kinda on edge. My classmates wanting to protect me from the older guy. And his friends wanted to keep him away from me. I took note of his backpack. However, and while nobody was around I squeezed an entire tube of superglue under it and let it sit on the bench where he left it. There was no ambiguity as to who did it. The guy was pissed beyond belief. And that was the point. His friends no longer felt sympathy towards the little prick that hot-glued their friend's backpack. I grabbed my things and chuckled as I bolted out of the locker room. Fury followed after me. He was faster because I was carrying my backpack. But I still managed to reach the school hallways. All hell broke loose. The guy and his classmates cornered me. And I wish I could say something climactic happened at this point. But most of the abuse was just psychological. They were shouting and shoving me around. I may have taken a slap and a kick or two as well. Although it was definitely an intimidating experience. It could have been much worse. The irony in the story came 4 days later when Adrian dumped him during recess in the same spot where they used to make out. In plain view of everyone. Well, maybe not everyone. Maybe my eyes were used to looking her way a bit more often than others. When I asked why, she nonchalantly said, "He was fun for a bit. But I grew bored of him." This kind of stunned me. 'Cause there I was thinking she'd found her knight in shining armor to protect her. In retrospect, all this drama probably even soured that relationship. She claimed she didn't do it because of me. But in my mind, she was available again. And round we go. As sort of icing on the cake. I'd like to add that I ran into Adrian again years later when I was in my college years. I asked to sit next to her on the bench in the town square. She kindly allowed it. And I took the time to apologize for all the nasty things I'd said and done to her during those few months in high school. I was a changed man by that point. And I wanted her to know that. She acknowledged that I was a real ass. And said, to my relief, that it didn't affect her much. She didn't resent me, realizing that I made an imposition on her time. I apologized again and got up to leave. At that moment she insisted I stay for a few minutes longer. She enjoyed talking to this new me. As she put it, I understood the flirt. But at the time I was having actual relationship troubles with another girl. And sitting down with her would have been more trouble than it's worth. Thank you for reading. You're awesome. Less than 3. End of story. That is all for today. If you want to support my automated channel, feel free to drop a like and subscribe. See you tomorrow.